Sometimes you get done with a video and you're like, hey, you need a bonus video. And for this, we need a bonus video. When we were talking about mounting the radio in the dash, we talked about two different types of mounts. One was what we showed you, how the back side of the radio gets mounted in the dash first, then the trim bezel goes on, and then the radio attaches to it. That's what you saw in the Camaro. Today, we're going to show you the other option I was talking about, where you build everything on the workbench, take it over, and put it in the car. That way, you'll have an example of both types of installations, so when you go to do yours, you'll know how they both go together. For this, we're going to be installing the radio in the Toyota Tundra full-size pickup truck. We have a dash kit that's going to allow us to mount it in there the way we've described. Let's hop into it and start mounting this thing in the dash. Welcome to the bonus video. This is the dash kit for the Toyota Tundra. It matches the factory look and feel, which you'll see once we get into the car. But as you can see, it's thicker here on the bottom than it is on the top. That's because the factory radio has an angle to it. These brackets are designed to mount into this kit like so. And then there's these two clips here on the top that hold the top in place, and then 4 screws on the bottom that hold that in place. First step building this kit is to get these brackets attached to this. It does come with a parts bag. Normally I would clip these on right away and just get it out of the way. However, because we're going to be test fitting this in and out, I'm going to save these for last. I do have all my other screws laid out here for the installation. For this, I am going to just be using a regular screwdriver. When building kits, it is the best way to do it. Most kits are going to have a left and a right on them. The reason for using a standard screwdriver instead of a cordless drill is so that you can keep an eye on the pressure you're using. And this is what we end up with. Now, if you recall from the previous one, these brackets attached to the radio, it went into the car, and this clicked over the front of it. This is, to me, a much funner way to do it. However, as you can see, if there's screws that are located behind these panels, like in the last car, obviously you can't build the kit like this. First step is checking to see whether this needs to be pulled out or stay where it's at in the flush look. Slide the radio firmly into place so that it is pushed all the way down. Check your gapping just like you would on a normal radio installation. I'm going to place 2 screws in the side so that we can get started. I don't want this sliding around while I'm working on it. Now that it's one solid piece, take the screen and line it up. Remember to let it just kind of fall in place. So this screen will move back and forth. If we bring it to its full bent in position, it's still sitting a good 1/2 inch here and maybe 1.25 inches at the top. In the middle where the pivot point is, it looks like it's about a 1/2 inch as well. I'm gonna add 2 screws to hold it while I'm doing my adjustments. The screws on the side of these radios are oblong so that you can move the radio back and forth. I would like to push the radio back some. As you can see, this one goes further back. So I'm changing my screws to that hole. I just wanna do that so I can get a look for it and see if I can push this back into the dash some. There is room in the dash cavity that this can go back a little bit. Not all dashes, of course, are the same. Pushing it back some into the dash, we do get full travel going this way. However, we do get limited travel going that way. What I need to do now is test fit it into the dash and see if this is going to be at a good viewing angle for the viewer. Also, I need to check my sight lines to the left and right here, and also make sure that I can get my clip in here. I may have to put my clip on and get that screwed in before I screw it into place. To test all that, we need to hop in the vehicle. When test fitting, make sure all your wires are up and tucked out of the way. So looking at it from the perspective of the driver, he can be at this height, and if he's a little taller, you can tilt the screen up and he'll be able to see it from here too. I think that recessing it back as far as we can with its limited movement gives us the best fit and finish. Pulls it in nice and tight to the dash. As you notice, it is hanging down kind of low here, and this is where the air conditioning panel is, so I do want to bring it up one notch and get it up a little bit higher. I think that will look the best. Let's take this back over to the bench and we'll adjust it and then we'll retest fit it. You'll notice too that there's these lips here that hang down. That is because this piece piece snaps into place. We do need to get this up at least this much so that that piece will clear. Remove our 2 side screws on either side. Find the set of holes that lines up the best so that panel will clip into place. I'll put one on either side just to hold this temporarily. Check our movement. Now with it mounted up like that, we actually get way more movement, and it tucks in there really nice. So this is setting back in there, and from the front, it basically covers that whole piece. I mean, this is all screen. You can't even see the dash kit anymore. Let's test fit it again. Putting myself at about the height that the driver is at, just viewing the screen. He does sit a little closer than this, but his head is somewhere in this area. Just kind of moving it around. It looks nice, there's no doubt about it. That pulls in there nice and tight. I'm gonna grab the AC controls and just make sure they fit. Pushing the screen all the way to the top, I'm gonna test fit the AC controls. They snap in, they don't touch anything. They easily come back out. This looks like we have a winner. Let's get it back over to the bench and we'll do a final assembly on it. We'll get all the screws put in place and we'll bolt it into the dash and make sure that it's nice and strong. With a silver Sharpie, mark the area where the screws are on the kit. When we go to screw it back in place, all we have to do is line them up with these marks and we will have a perfect fit. Put back in your 2 leftover screen mounts. Remove the 2 temporary screws. Pull the screen off. What we have to do now is a fun balance of getting this in there far enough to where we can screw it all together, put our locking mechanism in place, and then sliding it back into the dash far enough to get the look we just had. To do that, we'll repeat the process and that we'll mount this in place as far forward as we can. Gently put this back in. Gently slide this into place. Tip the screen down. On this, it's going to just be the 4 screws in the top. We can't get to the bottom. Get all 4 screws in, but wait till the end to tighten them up. Once they're all in, give them a good tighten. You may need to remove the side screws to get this piece to sit flush. Put in your 2 locking screws for that. Tip the screen back, get it on its side, and we can return our screws that we outlined back in place. I suggest just loosely putting them in to start with. If need be, wallow out your holes a little bit so you can get the rear screws in. Flip it over and repeat the process on the other side. I like to check my measurements to make sure that the kit is sitting square in the dash kit. For that, I'm gonna make sure that this gap here on both sides is the same, and also that these are both sitting at the same height, and they are. Put the clips in place. With those on, now we have a radio that is attached to the dash kit. It's all one piece. This will snap in using these top 2 clips, and then these 4 screws in the bottom. This should be nice and solid. To test that, let's do our last fitment in the car. We should be able to grab the screen and move it back and forth without seeing any flex in the dash kit. And we see no movement on the dash kit. This isn't moving. These gaps aren't getting any bigger, which is perfect because this should be able to move freely and not cause us any issues. Pushing it forward. Add in the air conditioner. Fits, clears the volume knob. Comes out just as easily. That is it. That's how she is going to look in the dash.